In Midsummer Magna, people involved with the King's Crystal Factory are being murdered. Can Barnaby and Jones figure out what's rotten in the county of Midsummer? We're talking a Hamlet inspired episode,
The history of the Freemasons.
and Cully's acting in this episode of.
Welcome to Midsummer.
Hello, and welcome to Midsummer, the podcast where we dissect all the mysteries, the murders, and the many weird things about the long running hit TV show, Midsummer Murders. I'm your host, Eric Buscher, and with me, as always, is my co host, Eileen Becker. Hey, Eileen.
Hey, Eric, we are talking about King's Crystal, the third episode of the 10th series. It originally aired January 26, 2007. It was directed by Peter Smith and written by Steve Trafford. Let's trod the boards.
Spoiler warning, we will be discussing the events of this episode, including the identity of the murderer. So if you haven't watched it yet and don't want to know who done it, pause this and go watch it or go read Hamlet. We will still be here when you get back.
So, how can we put a smile on your face?
We're not going to this bloody reception.
Okay, so we give it a miss. Come on. Let's get hammered. Get down a club.
This is midsummer. There's only Causton.
Only. Nowhere better. Every hour's happy hour in Causton.
We open in what is clearly Shanghai, China, and not just repurposed stock footage. Charles King, the owner of Midsummer Crystal making company King's Crystal, finalizes some business paperwork with chief accountant Peter Baxter in a hotel room, while Charles's brother and co-owner Alan King watches them and sketches in his book. After speaking to his wife Hillary on the phone, Alan tells them that the council has approved his plan to reopen an open-air theater in Midsummer Magna. Charles tells him that they have managed to save the business, so they are both big winners. Later on, in what is clearly a road in the Chinese forest and not some British woods with a Chinese road sign put in, Alan dies in an explosive car crash. The funeral is held back in Midsummer, and in attendance is Charles, Peter, Hillary, Alan's son Ian, Ian's friend from Cambridge, David Munro, Peter's daughter Sophie, Sophie's boyfriend, James Taylor, and factory worker Jack Tewson, who places a crystal dragonfly on Alan's coffin. Jack and many of his fellow workers are upset at Charles and Peter for closing the Midsummer factory and apparently moving production to China. We then jump 6 months into the future as Charles and Hillary are getting married. Ian is very upset and refuses to be in any of the wedding photos. Sophie tries to get Ian to take part, but David offers to take him drinking instead. Jack and his former co-workers stage a protest at the wedding, claiming that Peter and Charles stole their pension money. Peter and Jack get into a scuffle and Peter threatens him. Ian tries to talk to Jack, who lashes out at him despite Ian's claims of knowing nothing. Over the next few days, Jack has managed to get court receivers to look at the company's finances, which causes Peter to go to the Masonic Lodge to talk to Charles, who happens to be a leader there. Peter is worried they will find something, but Charles tells him to get a grip. Meanwhile, Sophie returns home to find it for sale and an argumentative Peter clearing up glass broken by a protester. That night at the King's Crystal offices, Peter interrupts a break-in and is then seen driving wildly through the village by David. The next day, Hillary finds Peter's dead body at a nearby pond. Barnaby and Jones are brought in, and Coroner George Bullard tells them that while his lungs are full of water, Peter didn't drown. He was stabbed in the chest in such a way it created a sucking wound. They didn't know why Peter was at the pond and assumed he might have been meeting someone there. They tell Sophie about his death, and she says that her father finally pushed someone too far. They go to talk to Charles, who puts the blame on the protesters, calling Peter a fair and square man. So we know he's lying. James Taylor backs Charles up, telling him about the fight at the funeral. Later, James Taylor tells Sophie he will always take care of her, but she resists, probably because of her feelings for Ian. Afterwards, Jones and Barnaby both discuss how Charles gave them both the Masonic handshake. Turns out Jones is also a Mason, although lapsed since he only joined because he thought it would be good for a promotion. Turns out all you had to do is be there when a detective calls out sick. They head to the King's Crystal offices where they meet with Jack. He shows them the broken into office with the files strewn everywhere. He says he didn't do the break-in or kill Peter because he was home drinking at the time, and points them towards Ian as he wanted to find out what his dad's father's company was up to. Ian isn't too broken up over Peter's death, but claims to know nothing about the break-in. David tells them about seeing Peter driving. Divers recover the knife that killed Peter, and it's a Masonic dagger given to initiates, but the tip is broken off and missing. Jones takes it to Charles, who is shredding documents. He points out a number code that means it's Peter's dagger. He often left it at the office to use as a letter opener. Ian finds a case full of his dad's Masonic belongings and his sketchbook we saw in the opening. Shocked after he flips through it, he hides it before David sees it. He tells Barnaby that he is helping to get the theater back up and running, his father's final wish. He made sure the first play was Hamlet so he could really stick it to his mother. Later on, he seems to have a change of heart, apologizing to Charles for being such a jerk, and Charles says he would like Ian to be his heir. Charles almost has to pick a new heir again because a drunken Jack points a gun at Ian in the fields, but luckily David stops him. Barnaby decides to use Joan's Masonic membership to send him to some meetings to gather intel. He attends a meeting where a new initiate is brought in covered in a hood. After he's accepted, the hood is pulled off, and the initiate is revealed to be Ian. Tourist info. This is our third time in Midsummer Magna after They Seek Him Here and Hidden Depths. It's also in Destroying Angel and Birds of Prey. Magna is considered one of the well-to-do areas in Midsummer, and it features a village fete, a defunct crystal factory, a secret underground wine cellar, and an open-air theater. Bring your own pillows because those stone seats are so rough, you will jump up and run out in the middle of a monologue.
I can't be 100% certain because I can't confirm it, but I'm pretty sure that the open air theater used was the Greek theater at Bradfield College in Berkshire. It's affectionately known as the Greeker, and it was converted from a chalk pit on campus and opened in 1890. The production of the play Antigone by Sophocles. It soon became the center of performing arts at Bradfield and where the summer play, the biggest event of the school year, takes place. An ancient Greek play is performed every 3 years, with the students having 9 months to learn the language and the script. In 2009, only a couple of years after this episode aired, the theater closed due to safety and accessibility requirements, but it reopened in 2014 after a campaign raised money for a restoration and an update. The first play was once again Antigone, but you still better bring a cushion to sit on because those are hard seats.
All right, so let's just we'll start with something we yes, this episode of Midsummer is clearly inspired by Hamlet. We will get to that in the second half once the full plot of the episode is laid out. But
Yeah,
we didn't want to start we didn't I don't want to start the episode without just mentioning the obvious.
yeah. The big Danish elephant in the room.
Yes. I we have the episodes opens in China, which is clearly just stock video, and then they just stuck some road signs, Chinese roads like that are very clearly in English,
Hmm.
in the middle of the woods, in wherever they shoot this show. It was like you even hear like Chinese like supposedly people like Chinese people talking on the road who
Hmm.
are like riding their bikes in the middle of the night,
Hmm.
but you never actually see them because
Yeah.
why would you have seen an Asian person in the show?
Yeah. And unless they were at some like resort outside of Shanghai, is a huge metropolis. Why would they be in the woods?
Yeah, that made no sense. Doing I do think it was weird watching people talk about doing a deal with manufacturing in China just in the context of the current world. We're
Oh yeah.
recording this in May 2025. The way the whole economy and the global economy is being weirdly disrupted. It's just
Hmm.
weird to hear about doing a deal of moving manufacturing to China.
Well, Charles is basically right about everything being made in China in 20 years because this is about 20 years ago that this
Yep.
was filmed.
And then a large section of this episode is about the King's crystal making factory. The opening credits has a wonderful little. You see them basically blowing crystal glass and putting together a beautiful crystal dragonfly,
Hmm.
which has nothing to do with Hamlet.
It doesn't, but it does symbolize change and self-realization. I did look that up because in an episode which deals with Freemasonry and Shakespeare, symbolism is very important.
Yeah, but I googled it though. I was like, is this in Hamlet? And I was like, nope. Okay.
No.
A few times at the factory, we actually see background people.
Yeah, that was actually those were really good scenes
Yeah.
in the factory.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of great factory work. I really loved when there's a few times when we are in the empty factory. I believe Ian's there at one point, and he's kind of reliving his childhood of all the guys working, and you can hear the sounds,
Mhm.
kind of the
Mhm.
ghosts,
Yeah.
which I thought was quite lovely. It's interesting to have that like kind of the the factory that, because it is sort of, again, talking about like sort of, factories closing, moving things to China. It's something that's just still very relevant.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there's a lot with the friendship between David and Ian in this episode,
Mhm.
which Ian, so young, so smooth. Like when
I
those close ups, and it was just like, it's just, does he have pores? What the
know. And he has aged so nicely.
Yeah. David is his gay best friend. They do kind of leave it very weird, right? Because it's like Ian doesn't seem to be super interested in Sophie. He's almost asexual.
They play it very coy with it, and I actually did like that aspect of it because it's like, does it matter in the
Hmm.
end?
Yeah.
Is this a deep male friendship, which is a very positive thing to see,
Yes.
or is this, he's just not quite ready to go there with David and accept the sexuality? And we don't
Yeah.
delve into it, and in the end, it doesn't really
It doesn't
impact
matter.
the plot. But I just thought that was a really good relationship to see on screen.
Yeah. David clearly loves him.
Yeah.
And it's also that love for David that I think I did not care for Hillary. I'm not. I didn't. I didn't care for her treatment towards David. It
Yeah.
did come across as very homophobic.
Yeah, she's a complex character. She
Yeah.
obviously wants him to marry Sophie, and I mean, Hillary is Gertrude.
Yeah.
Um, and she seems resentful because maybe she thinks that David is trying to turn Ian gay, or
Yeah.
the big gay agenda. Um, sorry, that just I laugh every time I hear about the gay agenda.
But Charles is cool with it.
Yeah,
Charles was like,
yeah.
"Hey, you support Ian. That's great."
Hmm. And I do like Barnaby's kind of disdainful reaction to when David tells him that Peter called him a Nancy boy.
Yeah.
It was just
Yep.
like, yeah,
It was like, "What is this guy? My former my former lieutenant?"
yeah.
So David does try to encourage Ian to take to go after Sophie. And they have that little exchange like, she's very fit and she knows it, which is also a American audiences might not know this, but that is also in 2004, that was a very popular pop single from a British rap singer called The Streets, and it was called
Mm,
"Fit But She Knows It."
okay.
I just remembered that song when I heard that line.
Hmm.
Also, I kind of love that rather than go to the wedding after party or whatever, David says, "I'm going to take you drinking in Coston because every hour in Coston is happy hour." And I feel like this is something we should have heard by now.
I know. It's like, where did this come from? I thought it was a sleepy little capital city of the province, of the
Yeah,
and of the county, and it was like, apparently it is where everybody goes to have a good time.
it's party. It's Midsummer Party Town.
Yeah.
Won't you take me to Coston Town? Da, 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 da. Coston Town. All right. So there's a large portion of this episode is dedicated to the Freemasons. So I think
Hmm.
before we talk too much about that, why don't we get a little bit of the history of the Freemasons from you, Eileen, in today's History Corner?
Yeah, and this is just a little bit of the history. Yeah. All right. During the medieval period in Europe, skilled craftsmen were employed to build the massive and beautiful cathedrals that exemplify the architecture of the period. Starting in the 9th century, the Romanesque style of architecture was used across Europe to build churches, palaces, and other buildings. This was followed by the Gothic style starting in the 12th century. The Palatine Chapel in Aachen, Germany is an example of the former, while Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris is possibly the most famous example of the latter. With both styles, skilled masons were necessary to build the massive structures, often decorated with intricate and delicate stonework. These stonemasons formed guilds, professional associations of skilled craftsmen or tradespeople who set standards or regulated trade. As the wave of cathedral building began to wane in the 16th century, stonemason guilds began to accept honorary members to bolster their declining membership. In the 17th and 18th century, these orders began to develop rituals based on ancient traditions, or supposed ancient traditions, and became more social. The Freemasons were among the earliest of the fraternal orders that sprung up, but many others later came along, including the Oddfellows, the Elks, and the Knights of Columbus. As fraternal orders, they were exclusively for men. The first Freemasonry Grand Lodge was founded in 1717 in England. This gathered together several other area lodges into one. The founding myths of Freemasonry also began to be codified, tracing back the lineage to Euclid in ancient Egypt and the biblical figure Jabal, who was descended from Adam in the 8th generation. Masonry then came to England during the reign of the 10th century king Athelstan, grandson of Alfred the Great. Augustine of Canterbury, the Christian monk who became the first Archbishop of Canterbury, was soon added to the legend as the first Grand Master. Freemasonry soon appeared in France, where the crusading Knights Hospitaller were added to the creation myth. Soon was developed the allegorical story of Hiram Abif, the chief architect of King Solomon's temple, who was murdered by 3 Masons after he refused to reveal to them the Master Mason's secrets. The secret word is lost, so Solomon makes a new one. I really have no idea what that means. It probably is a broken hallelujah. Anyway, the story is presented to candidates during the 3rd degree in Freemasonry. Though Freemasonry is sometimes in conflict with Christian churches, especially the Catholic Church, it is not considered a Christian institution. It has its origins in these Judeo-Christian traditions, and belief in the existence of a supreme being and the immortality of the soul are required of all applicants. So is being an adult male, and almost exclusively white and Protestant. In Britain and other parts of Europe, people kept being added to the historical list of Masons, including Noah, the Knights Templar, essayist and philosopher Francis Bacon, and English architect Christopher Wren. Some of these were to implicate people or groups in anti-Masonic writings. King Charles II was mentioned by one guy as having joined the fraternal order while in exile in the Netherlands, and that took off to the point where the Stuarts became allegorical figures in Freemasonry, though their nemesis, Oliver Cromwell, was also named as the founder of Freemasonry in an anti-Masonic work. Masonry soon spread to the Americas, and the earliest known lodges were established in Pennsylvania. George Washington, Paul Revere, John Hancock, and Benjamin Franklin were among the founders of the United States who were Freemasons. In fact, Washington swore the oath of office at his first inauguration upon a Bible that belonged to St. John's Lodge No. 1 of New York, as no one had told Washington to bring his own Bible for the swearing in. Symbolism is very important in Freemasonry, as it is in many secret fraternal orders. The square and compass is the most prominent symbol. They are the architect's tools that have been imbued with the meaning. The square to square our actions, the compass to circumscribe and keep us within bounds with all mankind, as stated in Duncan's Ritual of Freemasonry from 1866. In English-speaking countries, the capital letter G is often in the center of the square and compass. It has been said to stand for God, for geometry, or for the great architect of the universe, the Masonic term for the supreme being. Americans will recognize the all-seeing eye on top of a pyramid, as it's part of the Great Seal of the United States and is on the back of the $1 bill. It symbolizes that God is always watching, so be good for goodness sake. The cable tow, the rope that was used as a murder weapon in the episode, represents the promise that the Freemason will help his brother however much he can, as long as it's within the length of his tow rope. Handshakes and passwords are often used to identify members of the order, though these are hardly secret anymore, as even Tom Barnaby recognized the secret handshake. The apron is often a Freemason's most cherished possession associated with the order. They harken back to the leather aprons that stonemasons used to protect their clothing. The symbolic ones are made of lambskin and are unadorned for apprentices, but can be quite ornate for masons of higher degrees. On his visit to Mount Vernon in 1784, the Marquis de Lafayette gave George Washington a beautifully embroidered apron believed to have been made by his wife. Many masons are buried with their aprons. Since the Freemasons was pretty much a white man's club, other fraternal organizations sprung up because people loved to be part of a tribe. Prince Hall Freemasonry was founded in 1784 by Prince Hall, a leader of the free black community in Boston. It is the oldest and largest predominantly African American fraternity in the U.S. Women have traditionally been excluded, though they have formed their own lodges in many cases, and some lodges today accept women, though they are not officially recognized. Catholics formed the Knights of Columbus in 1882. The ancient Arabic order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, more commonly known as just the Shriners, are a Masonic society founded in New York City in 1872. It is known for the colorful Middle Eastern theme, and members can be seen in local parades wearing fezzes while driving small cars. They also have established Shriners Hospital for Children, as philanthropy is an important component of fraternal organizations. Well, that and stag movies and poker. In popular culture, Freemasonry drives the plot of Dan Brown's 2009 The Lost Symbol, as well as being part of a conspiracy theory about Jack the Ripper, as put forth in the book Jack the Ripper The Final Solution by Stephen Knight, published in 1976. That popular though debunked book inspired the 1970s Sherlock Holmes movie Murder by Decree, as well as the Alan Moore graphic novel From Hell, which was made into a movie starring Johnny Depp in 2001.
Yeah, I am always been fascinated by Ripperology and the Jack the Ripper murders. So the the Masons get kind of lumped in because of there was graffiti discovered on a
Hmm.
wall next to a piece of bloody apron that was from the one of the murder victims. It was the night where there was infamously two
Two.
women murdered,
Mhm.
both attributed to Jack the Ripper, and then where the bloody apron there was graffiti written that said the Jewes, Juwes, are the men that will not be blamed for nothing.
Mhm.
It's called the Galston Street Graffito, and at the time it was kind of attributed to anti-Semitic, like a
Mhm.
poor, like a misspelling of the word Jews,
Mhm.
and it's considered sort of anti-Semitic, which would have been, you know, at London at the time there was also quite a lot of anti-Semitism.
It's still fairly prominent today in
Yep, yep.
many parts of the world.
And in Knight's, but it's Stephen Knight, he attributed it to actually to a Masonic theory by describing it as basically it refers to the Jew as the Jubilat, Jubilo, and Jubilum. These are
Mhm.
figures in Freemasonry. They are the killers of a person named Hiram Abiff.
Mhm.
So this is a big. So that is a part of Mason culture, and that is sort of where the Masons kind of get uh, 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 grouped in to the theory. Jack the Ripper, the Final Solution, was the one that has kind of captured the hold in most people's mind of Jack the Ripper, that it was a royal conspiracy,
Yeah.
that they were trying to hide a potential heir to the throne, and that the killer was Sir William Gull, royal uh, the royal physician who was also apparently a Mason.
Mhm.
There is no real most ripperologists have gone through Knight's book and have been like, "There's no real evidence here."
Mhm.
But it is interesting that it is the one that is, because it's a conspiracy and it is royalty
Yeah.
and all this secret societies, and that's the one that's kind of captured the imagination of most people.
Yeah.
Um, and it is Masons are kind of up there with the Illuminati
Yeah. Th-
as
Very similar and people confuse them a lot in a lot
yeah.
of their symbology. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, my question is this: why are
Mhm.
the Masons in this episode? We already have the Hamlet thing. The Masons were not a part of, like, a big part of Hamlet that I recall.
No.
It does feel like prime example of hat on a hat.
Yeah, I think it does. I think um because to be honest, I could have done this history of Shakespeare, which I can probably do without even doing much research. I have been to his grave, so yeah, I made that pilgrimage.
Hmm.
There's also the history of glassmaking, which is actually really fascinating because I just read a book that dealt with it. So,
Hmm.
not for this, not for research, just because it's an interesting subject.
Hmm. Okay, so going back to my question, nerd. Um, no, I mean, why is like
It
it,
doesn't
it,
real.
it doesn't add
It's
anything?
it really doesn't add anything. It does offer a way for Jones to get more involved in the investigation and to kind of make that connection. I think there could have been other ways to do it, but it seems like they needed some kind of way to get him in, and it's like, hey, let's make him a Freemason, and this other guy a Freemason, and let's make that part of the plot.
It just seemed like a lot, right?
Hmm.
It there's so much in this episode
There's a
of
lot
like,
in this episode, yeah.
but none of it really goes anywhere. And the Mason thing, which I thought was like, the Mason thing could have been a whole
Hmm.
other episode.
Hmm.
Like, they could have pulled that out and used that for something else, because, you know, a secret like an organization that's known for like secrecy
Mhm.
and put that in a murder case where people like the
Mhm.
answer is like maybe the only way to get the answer is to break your vows. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of inherent trauma in that. But I
Yeah.
think the catch of it is that it's Jones, and Jones is like kind of comes out is like right away. He's like, yeah, I don't care about Masons. I did it
Yeah.
because I wanted a job.
Yeah. And all he had to do is show up on the right day.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it's interesting. So it was interesting to see the Masons in there, but it just felt like there's no. It added really very little.
I will say, having watched a documentary that John Nettles was a presenter on William Shakespeare, as a and one of the theories that they expound in there is that he was a closet Catholic. Um, and there's the whole anti-Masonic, anti-Catholic aspect of
Mhm.
Freemasonry. Um, and I thought, well, maybe there's going to be some sort of tie-in with those two conspiracies and theories, and there isn't.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope. It
Mm.
is just it's
Yeah.
extra filling,
Yeah.
but really, it's fluff. It kind of the masonry is something that's so loaded with conspiracy,
Yeah.
so loaded with mythology and people's thoughts on it, and it's wasted here. It
Yeah.
really is wasted.
Mhm.
This did not need it. They could have done this in a completely different episode, and I think would have been able to bang out like a
Yeah.
really even with the Jones in it. Like, and
Mhm.
I think the other part of it is that because they set Jones up as like he doesn't care,
Mhm.
like there's inherent drama of just like, hey, this is a vow I took that means something to me, and
Yeah.
to solve this murder, I have to break this vow. I have to decide what's more important to me.
It would
Being
have
a
been yeah, it would have been more interesting if he had been part of it because a family member, like his dad or his uncle, had
Yeah,
introduced him to it. Yeah, and there was
yeah,
a family connection. Yeah.
yeah, or the inherent drama of having to make
Yeah.
that choice, like what is
Yeah.
more important.
Yeah.
That's a situation that is rife with drama and intrigue,
Mhm.
and again, it would have been a great different episode. And here, it's just kind of wasted as just sort of
Yeah.
it's extra. It's set dressing.
Yeah. And it's not used to the full potential. They had Hamlet already going here,
Yeah,
and that should have been where they really went with it.
no,
And yet they added this whole thing about the Freemasons in there.
yeah,
And the melancholy Dane was not a Freemason that we know of.
no, no. All right, should we take us through the cast highlights? You wanna take us through them?
Sure. John Castle played cunning businessman Charles King. Castle is a Rotograd with an impressive resume, including Blow Up, The Lion in Winter, The Prisoner, and Robocop 3. Before he decided to be an actor, he had a number of short term jobs, including clerk, hotel waiter, travel agent, salesman, landscape gardener, and geography teacher. I remember him quite well as he had a couple of times as Inspector Craddock in a couple of the Miss Marple series from Joan Hickson's days.
He is a very recognizable British
Yeah.
actor. Like I remember him from The Lion in Winter. So he as this role of Charles,
Hmm.
it's a perfect role for him.
And I got to tell you, anybody who can hold his own on the screen with Peter O'Toole, Katharine Hepburn, and young Anthony Hopkins,
Hmm.
yeah. Ray Lonan played grumpy accountant Peter Baxter. Lonan is probably best known for his role in the cult British spy series The Sandbaggers. He played one of MI6's best operatives for 3 seasons when his character was shot in a cliffhanger. However, the show's creator, Ian McIntosh, was on a plane that went missing over Alaska, and he's never been found. So the show ended up cancelled, and his character's fate was never known. He also appears in Z Cars, The Bill, and Star Hunter. He passed away from cancer in 2014.
Talk about a reason to get your show canceled.
That's a pretty sad one. That whole paragraph is sad. Joseph Fry was poorly named James Taylor. Before acting, he was a professional footballer. He appeared in V for Vendetta, Alien vs. Predator, Shortland Street, and Testify.
I really did. I tried to find where he played
Mm-hmm.
football. Problem is, there's a James Taylor that is, or there's a Joseph Fry that is currently playing now,
Mm,
and I could not. So I could not. And he's a. So every time you put Joseph Fry football, it's
yeah,
this guy. I couldn't find it.
yeah. Flora Montgomery was Ophelia stand-in Sophie Baxter. She hails from Northern Ireland and was the winner of the Irish Times Best Actress Award for her lead performance in a production of Miss Julie. She's appeared in Basic Instinct 2, Mother's Milk, Bloodlands, and Dune Prophecy. Tim DeLapp played loyal friend David Monroe. He's appeared in This Is England, The Diplomat, Napoleon, and Mobland. He also played Rochester in a National Theatre touring production of Jane Eyre. Hugh Sachs was theatre director Harold Bumstead. Sachs played the role Gavin Ramsbottom in the show Benidorm and has appeared in The Aristocrats, Footballers' Wives, and Mad Dogs and Englishmen. Most people will recognize him from his role of Grimsley in the hit Netflix show Bridgerton and the prequel Queen Charlotte. David Firth was bad driver Alan King. He had a lengthy career in the London stage and worked with the RSC and National Theatre. He originated the role of Monsieur Andre in Phantom of the Opera and performed in a few Sondheim productions, including Assassins. On screen, he was in The Upside of Anger, Yes Minister, and The Bill. Everyone was on The Bill.
When you look at this guy's acting resume on stage, and I was like,
Mhm.
I was shocked he's in this episode for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Like this guy is like a really top notch actor, and I feel like he might have been friends with Nettles or something, and just did this
yeah,
as a friend thing.
yeah,
Because I mean, he doesn't have a huge TV or screen career, but like acting career on stage, like he is, he is he clearly is a legend of the British stage.
yeah, yeah. And, Nettles knows a lot of these really top notch actors
Yeah,
because he's done a lot of stage work. Yeah. And maybe he wanted more than $200 a week.
maybe, but he got a free trip to China.
Or a hotel outside of London. Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown was hat tossing boy one. He appeared in Ken Loach's The Navigators, Emmerdale Farm, and Coronation Street. No IMDb credits since 2010, but apparently he is married with children, but probably not to Lucy Van Pelt.
Nope. That's in his IMDb bio, which also is just like he's had nothing since 2010. So he at one point just went, "I'm married with children. Make sure you know I'm not dead."
Luke McMillan was hat tossing boy two. His only other credit is a 2017 movie called Blood Honey, and we're not sure what he's doing now. There's probably a lot of Luke McMillans that you had to wade
There
through on
are,
that one. Yeah.
there are.
Yep.
We had a few return visitors this time. Number one, Susan Tracy was grieving bride Hillary King. Now we last saw her as a cocaine mom in Death in Disguise. She's appeared in The Stars Look Down, The Diary of Anne Frank, Lovejoy, New Tricks, and most recently she was in Ted Lasso.
She's a really great actress, but Hillary is such a complicated character, and she really brings out a lot of that.
Yes, she did a wonderful job in this. I mean, she had more to do than Cocaine Mom,
Yeah.
but she will forever be Cocaine Mom in our hearts. Tony Haygarth was drinking and shooting Jack Dawson. We just saw him in A Rare Bird, and we will see him again in Destroying Angel. He's appeared in I, Claudius, Dracula, A Month in the Country, Chicken Run, and New Tricks. He passed away in 2017. Now, Morris Perry appeared as the pub landlord who was trying to get Jack Dawson to stop drinking. We will see him again in Dark Autumn. He was a British character actor who appeared in The Avengers, Z-Cars, Doctor Who, and The Sweeney. He passed away in 2021. David Henry played the wedding photographer. He's also in Dance with the Dead. He's appeared in Flawless, The Killing Fields, Evita, and Ali G into House. Sadly, he passed away in 2023. This is not a good running theme here.
Yeah. This is the problem with some of these other older episodes.
Yep. There was that. I think that was like nothing as bad as the one from the retirement home.
Yeah. That was sad.
Yep. Hamlet was played by Oliver Ryan, and we saw him in the Oblong Murders, and he has appeared in Dune, the Pembrokeshire Murders, Pennyworth, and the Red King. And a shout out to a couple uncredited performers. John Kinnery played Claudius, and John Snowden was a detective. Thank you for your uncredited service.
Yes.
The village star this week, of course, was Sam Heughan, who played the doomed Ian King. Now, he is Scottish, the children of hippie parents who apparently joined a Tolkien inspired group slash maybe cult called Gandalf's Garden. And that means, yes, he is named after Samwise Gamgee. he, he studied acting at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, or Rosamund, where as a student, he actually got a role in a professional play called Outlying Islands. He had to take some time off from classes, but it earned him an Olivier nomination for Most Promising Performer. So, if you're trying to remember where you know him from, it's most likely from his lead role as Jamie Fraser in the hit show Outlander, where he has shown his butt quite a few times.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it is a nice butt. I'm saying, as a connoisseur of butts, it is a very nice butt. I feel like
I'm not.
I'm in my
I feel
uh
like you need to add that to your Instagram profile.
my
Connoisseur of butts.
my Tina Belcher phase I'm going through.
Yep. That show has lasted 8 seasons. I believe it is currently filming its 8th and final season. Um, his success on that show led him to pen a book with co-star Graham McTavish called Clanlands: Whiskey, Warfare, and a Scottish Adventure Like No Other, which hit the top spot on the New York Times bestseller list. He also has his own award-winning whiskey brand called the Sassenach, named after the nickname his Outlander character gave his wife. He's been in a number of other films. I believe The Spy Who Broke Up with Me or what. He's been in a lot of other stuff. He's going to be. This guy is going to be a big. This guy is a big star. He is going to.
Mhm.
He is definitely in the before they were famous category for the show. Now, outside of that, he has been an outspoken advocate for Scottish independence for years. And also, I kind of love this. Early in his career, he spent 2 years playing Batman in a touring production of Batman Live, one of those things they do for kids.
Mhm.
During his time as Batman, he actually caught someone trying to shoplift from a record store, and he held them for 15 minutes making a citizen's arrest until police arrived. So he was kind of living the Batman life while playing Batman.
And that was before he had his JB Fraser bulk up. Yeah.
Yeah. Um I thought he was fine in this episode.
Mhm.
Um I think when he I didn't quite buy his like I mean, his shocked face needed a little work.
Mhm.
And I thought his scene where he's trying to play manic and crazy to Sophie just seemed too over the top.
Mm.
But beyond that, I thought he did a really good job with this. Like
Yeah.
he did a very good job at being angry, which
Yeah.
is like kind of the just kind of the main trait of Ian.
I think that scene with Sophie, and we'll talk about this more because it actually kind of is a combination of a couple
Yeah.
scenes from Hamlet, including obviously the get thee to a nunnery scene. I actually thought he might have been a little too happy crazy rather than crazy crazy.
Yeah. That said, he's so pretty in this episode. Like we said,
Oh
he's
my
so
god.
smooth. It's those close up of his face is just like porcelain.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting is that like he has grown up and he looks rougher now, and he
Hmm.
looks now. I don't mean that in a bad way. He like he looks like a guy who would have been a Scottish Highlander.
Yeah. A very pretty Scottish
Yep,
Highlander.
with a Eileen approved butt. All right, we're
and
gonna take a
and
quick.
Tina Belcher approved that too.
We're gonna. Okay, we are gonna take a break here so Eileen can cool down. We'll be back with the second half of King's Crystal.
There's room for you, and here's some for me. Oh, you must wear your rue with a difference. There's a daisy. I would give you some violets, but they withered all when my father died. They say I made a good end.
Okay, thank you, Cully, love. Hold it there. Take a break, everybody. Next call. Hamlet.
And we're back. Let's talk about the second half. King's Crystal.
Look, I admit I loathed Baxter and I despised Ian King.
But you assisted at Ian's initiation, didn't you? Led him into the temple by the noose. The kind of noose that hung him.
Neither his blood nor Baxter's is on my conscience. You may think the craft's just a load of ridiculous rituals, but to me, it's a state of grace, built on respect for the living souls of all true brothers.
The finance cops have done a deep dive into Peter Baxter's records, and surprise! There's problems. Looks like he had a large estate hidden in offshore accounts, and there is definitely evidence of fraud in the company's records. Jones wonders if James Taylor killed Peter to get his hands on Sophie's inheritance. But she is still hung up on Ian? But maybe not after he surprises her at the flower barn and acts quite scary and manic. She runs off in tears, but Ian reveals to David that it's all been an act. He's trying to solve what happened to his father. He knows who killed Peter, but won't spill the beans. Ian then joins Charles for a meeting/negotiation with Jack and the other workers. Charles tries to pin everything on Peter and offers to pay them a fraction of what they are owed. But Jack lets him know that he is in possession of company documents showing just how Charles and Peter ripped them off. Charles realizes those were stolen from Peter's office, but Jack says, hey, call a cop. And besides, they were left anonymously on his doorstep. David tells Barnaby about what Ian said, so Barnaby gets him to arrange a meeting with Ian, who at this time is busy telling something shocking to his mother. Charles comes into the room and Ian tries to play it off, but when he leaves, Hillary tells him what Ian said, although we don't hear it. They find the missing tip of the dagger in a file lock at the office, which means someone was using it to pry open the files. Meanwhile, David sees James Taylor haul what looks like a wrapped body out of Sophie's house, and then David can't find her. He goes to meet Barnaby at the factory in the hopes that Ian will come, but Ian is also a no-show. Barnaby receives a call, and they go to the barn where Ian is dead in what looks like a suicide by hanging with a cable used in Mason ceremonies. Hillary is in shock, and Charles seems shook, but says that Ian had been acting unstable. David isn't buying this, and claims that Ian was murdered and Sophie could be dead too. So the police break into her home and find her gone, but her mobile is still there. She's also missed several of James Taylor's phone calls, so they bring James Taylor in for interrogation. I'm not going to stop saying James Taylor. He claims the large bulky item was Peter's clothes and books being given to a charity shop. He thinks Sophie ran away because of Ian's death and is visiting a friend of hers upstate. Bullard reveals that Ian had been drugged with barbiturates, so this is murder. Hillary is horrified to learn the truth and turns her anger first at David, telling him to leave, and then glaring at Charles. Charles tells him to stay because he was so good to Ian. The detectives find children playing their favorite game, Toss the Hat, with Baxter's missing cap and realize that Peter was killed at the factory. Then the killer wore the cap to pretend to be Peter while driving his body to the pond. The killer probably ran from the scene, remembering to throw the cap later. Tom and Joyce go to the theater's opening night to see Hamlet, featuring Cully as Ophelia. During the production, Tom realizes he has been trapped inside Hamlet this whole time. He has the Barnaby brain fart, which causes him to stand up in the middle of Cully's big monologue and run out of the theater. That's going to be some therapy bills. Anyways, he picks up Jones and tells him that Ian had been playing manic to get close to Charles. They drive to the King home, but David tells them that Hillary has driven Charles to the hospital because he was feeling groggy. But there are no hospital reports admitting him, so they trace her phone to the factory. They find Charles tied up and drugged with a hood on, and Hillary threatening to stab him. She believes that Charles killed Alan to take control of the company and killed Ian because he found something in Alan's sketchbook to prove it. They dig through Ian's stuff and find the sketchbook, and inside there's a page on which Alan wrote saying Charles and Peter were trying to rip off the workers. They try to interrogate Charles and reveal what happened to Peter. Ian broke into the offices looking for evidence of what they were doing. When Peter arrived, they struggled, and Peter was accidentally stabbed. Ian panicked and moved the body. But Ian then told Hillary that he had killed Peter, which became the catalyst for his own death. Charles realizes that Ian knew too much about Peter and Alan's deaths. However, Charles claims he was at a Masonic charity function during Ian's death, so it couldn't have been him, and that the detectives have no evidence linking him to it anyways, which is true. He also tries to put the blame on Hillary for everything. What a husband. So Barnaby has an idea. They dig up Alan's body and discover the Chinese government not great with autopsies. Bullard finds ground glass in Alan's stomach, which is apparently a ancient Chinese poison which would have killed him within 20 minutes. Barnaby feels this is enough to hold Charles for both Alan and Ian's murders. Sophie returns from up north, and she and David grieve together after he explains what Ian was doing. Cully holds a grudge against her dad, for obvious reasons, and Jones gives Barnaby his own Masonic dagger to use as a letter opener, because what else would you use them for? Our strange kill this time, I think it's a little bit of Peter stabbing, but I think more on the circumstances.
Hmm.
Because he is stabbed accidentally during the break-in with a Masonic dagger, which is a fun sentence to say.
It's almost Dan Brownish.
Yep. Peter was a jerk.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have one redeeming scene at all.
No, it would have been nice to have some sort of scene where he's kind of bonding with uh
Anyone?
well, yeah, I mean his daughter. Mm.
Yep. Nope. Um, he goes to the offices at late at night for some reason, and then finds the dagger on the ground, and then says the phrase that pays, "Hey, what are you doing here?" Which means, yeah, he was gonna die.
Never, ever, ever say that line when you're
Nope.
in the vicinity of Midsummer County.
No, that's who are you? What are you doing here? Oh, it's you. None of these things.
Yeah.
And then I did love there's a fun Midsummer Mirrors Easter egg
Yeah.
that when we go to his house and we see that it is for sale, the for sale sign is from Beauvaisan Realty.
Yeah. Yeah, that comes up in several episodes from
Yep.
I think what, the second episode on, yeah.
Yep. She is it's just one of those funny little Easter eggs that
Mm.
just they pop in every once in a while.
Yeah.
This episode has two killers, Charles and Ian. But as we said, it is just a retelling of Hamlet as a murder mystery.
Mhm.
Charles killed Alan, Ian kills Peter, Charles kills Ian.
Yeah.
Sort of a perfect circle.
Yeah.
So let's break down how this was working. Ian is Hamlet,
Mhm.
obviously. Charles is Claudius. Hillary is Gertrude. I guess they couldn't figure out a couldn't didn't want to call her Gertie.
Yeah.
Peter is Polonius, although Polonius is more of an insufferable kind of ass in the play, and here he's just an ass.
But he is like the factotum for
Yes,
for Claudius, which Peter is for Charles.
yeah,
He's his right-hand man. He's the one who's kind of doing all this. And he is kind of killed behind a screen as he is in the
hmm
play.
yep. James is Laertes, which makes his feelings for Sophie super creepy.
I think they did it just to give him a potential motive for hating
Yeah.
Ian.
David is Horatio, and you think Barnaby and Jones are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Either that or Barnaby is Fortinbras, because he's the last man standing with all the goods.
That I would say is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are kind of the fools.
Yeah. They do have some of the funnier lines in the show. I mean, there's not a whole lot of humor in this one.
Yeah. It I mean I think that's kind of the big problem is Hamlet's not a murder mystery. So once you pick up that this is Hamlet, the answers are right there,
Mhm.
and it's a little weird. I
Yeah.
mean, it starts strong and then falls real flat.
Yeah, what happens is it's basically Hamlet if Claudius's plot with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to send Hamlet to England and have him killed had succeeded. Which obviously it doesn't in the play because what happens in the show is that things fall apart after Ian is killed. The
Yeah.
whole momentum of the show just dissipates.
Yep. Ian acts crazy, pretends to be a good son to solve his father's murder or the method in his madness.
Mhm.
He picks Hamlet to make his mom mad, much like Hamlet did.
Yep, the play's the thing. And actually the scene with the workers where they just is kind of that the play's the thing, because Ian is part of it. He knows this is all a setup that he has set up to gauge Charles's reaction when he gets
Mhm.
the financial reports.
Hillary's marriage to Charles poisoned everything,
Mhm.
which I think is very obvious wording. Also, Alan is poisoned,
Yeah.
and that is by the way, so having finely ground glass in his stomach, which is what they claim is a poisoning known to China, is not true.
Hmm.
It is a myth.
Yeah.
Ground glass is not a poison, and apparently probably would not kill you. And it's hysterical because I was Googling this, and the first thing that comes up is a guy writing a very lengthy blog post about this based on this episode.
Yeah.
Ian's behavior to Sophie is very very Hamlet like.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, there's a combination of two scenes, one of which is an offstage scene that's described by Ophelia of the way of when Hamlet comes to her, basically her apartments in the palace, and kind of like gets a little weird with her. And then obviously the Get Thee to a Nunnery scene, which is one of the most famous theater scenes of all time.
And then the flowers are all the flowers are references to Ophelia.
Yeah. Yeah, the mad scene where she's handing out the flowers. All the flowers are and this episode is full of flowers. And I believe that those purple flowers in front of the king's house garden, that garden area where they have that one scene, I think those are rosemary. I'm not great at identifying flowers, I admit that. But obviously rosemary, that's for remembrance, is a very famous Ophelia line from her mad scene.
Yeah. And all of this makes the ending still, like I said, very unsatisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Charles never actually, like, in one of the rare things I've seen in Midsomer, Charles makes no admission that he does it.
Yeah.
He sits there glaring at the end when Barnaby kind of walks away triumphant.
Yeah.
But, Barnaby himself only has circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
We don't also we got a flashback to see Ian killing Peter. We never see a flashback of Charles doing anything.
And it's kind of the same with Claudius in Hamlet. He never admits to it before he's killed. He has one scene where goes to pray after the play, and Hamlet thinks I'm going to kill him now, but he's praying, so he'll probably go to heaven, and we don't want that to happen.
Yeah. But it makes it very unsatisfying. That's, Hamlet is a tragedy.
Yeah.
Midsomer Murders is a murder mystery.
Yeah.
It's, different rules apply. And Midsomer has always set up that cathartic release of the, you caught me.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't get it, honestly, for a second there, I was like, oh, Charles isn't admitting that he did it. So there's going to be someone else actually did it.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a final twist, and it's like David all along, right? And then I looked at the time that was left in the episode. I was like, oh, there's no twist.
Yeah.
They're just not going to have Charles admit it. Okay.
Yeah. I actually kind of like that he didn't admit it, because it's the smart thing to do, not to admit to murder in front of the cops, ask for your lawyer.
Yeah. Oh no, it's like the smart thing is always like, yeah, he did the smart thing, but it's not satisfying.
It's not the satisfying thing to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we don't get that resolution. Yeah.
Yeah. We went through all this, and it's just as like, ugh. Because honestly, if he admits it, then Hillary is probably off the hook.
Yeah.
I did like that the acting is so good from Castle. Did you notice how after Ian's death, right? His hand is just subtly trembling.
Yeah.
After watching the episode through, it's like it's both from him like worried he's going to get caught.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah. That I got as that's the scene where he's like kneeling down to pray. That's his tell. Yeah.
Yep. Now, why didn't Hillary tell the detectives what Ian told her?
I don't know. That's
they
weird.
never.
Yeah, and they never tell them. Yeah, we don't see that.
Yeah, it's like she never tells them that. She's like, "Oh, he knew stuff. He told me."
Yeah.
And then they have to find the sketchbook, which has the information, and they go, "Oh, that's what he knew." And I'm like, they had to set up a reason for Charles to kill Ian.
Yeah.
But then there's no reason for her to not tell. It's a logical. It's a real logic hole that makes no sense. That like they're trying to stretch out the tension and the mystery, but it makes no sense because you would like what did he tell you? Well, I'm not gonna say. What? Huh? Her face when she's looking at Charles when she finally realizes that Charles is the killer.
Oh yeah,
that was a great reaction.
Yeah, yeah. Our Claudius and Gertrude were very top notch here.
I thought it was really funny that when they break into the Baxter's house, they basically have to break the same window.
lot of window breaking there. Yeah,
but I think it's almost the same window. I think they're just breaking it again. It almost feels like they shot that scene first, and then they
Mm.
shot the scene afterwards where he's like looking at the. And then I kind of love that like they find the hat because two kids are playing catch with a hat.
Yeah, that was weird.
Hey kids, what are you doing? We're playing catch with a hat. It's what kids do nowadays, old timer.
Yeah.
We can't afford a ball.
Yeah.
We found this hat. Go long, I'll throw the hat at you. It was so silly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little about how weird it is to name a character James Taylor.
Hey, he's our handyman.
There's some names you can't use anymore.
Yeah. I mean, there's always, yeah, I mean, I know there's probably a million James Taylors out there, but, you're going to think of the one who's a handyman.
It was just so weird. I mean, I get it, Taylor Laertes.
Yeah.
But it's come on, guys.
Yeah.
Call him Jim Taylor or Tom Taylor or something like that.
Bob Taylor.
Yeah. And so he's in love with Sophie,
Yeah.
who is using him. They don't really explain that relationship.
It seems like she thinks of him as a friend and he's in love with her. It's kind of like the Ian and David relationship, maybe. Who knows?
I don't know. I find that Ian and David are very close, but
Mm.
when James Taylor
Mhm.
tells Sophie that he's always going to be there for her and all that stuff, she's not really into it.
Yeah.
Although that might be because it's in his workshop where her dad's coffin is right next to her.
Yeah, she's picking out he's trying to sell her a coffin,
Yeah.
and he's kind of downselling it. And really downselling it with the girly pictures right by the coffins there.
Jesus.
That's real professional there.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like,
Yeah.
man, look, James Taylor, pick your shots. Pick your shots. That's not one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is downselling her. It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. They all burn easy.
Yeah. There was an actual reference to stonemasonry on the sign at the funeral directors, though. I mean, that was kind of a nice callback to the
Yeah.
whole. Yeah.
Well, the only reason there was Masons in.
Yeah. There was actually stones being carved.
Yep. So he claims that the giant, it looked like a body bag, right?
Yeah.
That he claims that was Peter's clothes. He was taking Peter's clothes and books to charity shops.
Yeah.
It's been 2 days.
Yeah. By the way, you don't put first of all, you don't put books in a bag.
No.
We worked in books. We know how to pack books.
Yeah.
Don't put them in a bag. Certainly not with clothing.
No. But it's been 2 days. It's like,
Yeah.
when did she do this? Or
Yeah.
has he just been? It's just like it's like getting rid of her dad's stuff. It's like in 2 days.
Yeah.
If I was the police, I'd be like, why are you getting rid of your dad's stuff for 2 days, Sophie? That seems very suspicious.
Yeah.
Also, the timeline doesn't work. Like he says that she's gone north because of Ian's death, right?
Mhm.
But David is already like she's already gone missing, or
Yeah.
she's disappeared before Ian's body's found.
Yeah.
The timeline doesn't work. Now, if she's
Yeah.
gone north because of Ian's weird 3-minute rant at her,
Yeah.
okay, but that seemed, or over because she's really distraught over her dad's death. That makes sense. But if she's really distraught, again, she's getting rid of the clothes in 2 days.
Yeah.
So it just struck me as they were trying to take her off the board without her being another body.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reasoning just, again, it's a weird logic hole that makes no sense.
Yeah. I agree.
But I did love that final season where she and David kind of grieved together over the loss of Ian.
Yeah. That was a very nice scene, yeah.
Both admitting that they deeply loved this very troubled young man.
Yeah.
And can't do this without talking a little bit about Jack Tewson,
Yeah.
who has the second best alibi I've ever heard. After the Lions of Corkston, I couldn't have committed the murder. I was high from pot brownies. His alibi why he couldn't have killed Peter, I was drunk at
Yeah.
home. Well, we'll take him off.
They they'd already kicked him out of the pub.
Yeah. Was he planning to shoot Ian, or was it just going to take a pot shot at him?
I don't know. He's angry at the whole family because he doesn't know who is involved, in all the theft of the pensions and the money that they're owed. But, you know, he doesn't seem like the person who would shoot Ian just
Yeah.
cold-bloodedly. He might have wanted to, like, maybe, you know, put one by him just to kind of
Yeah.
send him a message.
But it's like it just seemed a little weird. Also, he's the only character where there's no clear Hamlet.
He's just all the Osrics and guards up on the tower kind of guy.
Yeah,
He
a little.
represents all the people who aren't part of they're part of the corporate, they're not courtiers.
Yeah. He was angry at Ian, but then Ian got him the job being the ticket taker at
Mhm.
the open air theater.
Yeah.
And where he's like, he got me this job, and I think I got Ian wrong, and I'm like, did you? Because I don't think that job's going to pay anywhere near as well as that factory job.
No, but at least he at least he arranged something for him, which,
He's got drinks money.
yeah, he's got drinks money. That's a nice gesture.
I would rather he cleared my tab off at the bar.
Yeah, maybe he did that too.
And I thought was really funny. There's that scene where he and Charles and Ian are all
Yeah.
talking, and he has the documents in a plastic bag, and then
Yeah.
Charles storms off and he takes that plastic bag and he tries to like forcefully put it down on the table, but it's a plastic bag, so it just kind of like gently drops.
Yeah.
That's so awkward and weird.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not dropping the mic there, my man.
Yeah.
Corner. So Bullard is there for the handy info dumps.
Yeah.
Doesn't really get a lot to do, but apparently we can say he is a better corner than the one in Shanghai.
Apparently so.
Or at least the one in Shanghai knew that that this ancient Chinese poison thing was just a racist myth, and Alan was just a terrible driver.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know how much they would have gotten out of the body if it had burned up in the car crash, though.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Is like, how would they like wouldn't the contents have like burned up as well? Like he exploded.
Yeah.
I guess maybe glass doesn't burn.
I guess not.
Detective work this time. I mean, obviously we talked a bit about Jones's big membership in the Masons. And I love that he thought it would help his career, which is such a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned and they bring this up in the JOB for Yahweh
Mhm.
or Yahweh or Jahweh, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Osiris and Baal is reputed to come from Jabulon, which is probably made up Hebrew word. It is used maybe in Masonic rituals, but it doesn't look to have been widespread. And you talked about how Stephen Knight used it in the Final Solution. He claims that it was the name of the Masonic god, even though the Masons didn't worship a separate god. So, yeah, it was.
Stephen Knight was a bit of a crackpot.
He was a bit of a crackpot. Yeah. I also like that he nods off during the initiation ceremony.
He really doesn't care. He
Yeah.
really did not want to be there.
Yeah.
In fact, and it comes to that thing of like he betrays his oath as a Mason because in his heart he is a cop first, and there
Mhm.
is that kind of interesting. I do think that's the one good scene that James Taylor, James Taylor has,
Mhm.
is when they're interrogating him, and they're like, "Yeah, well, I saw you do this at the ceremony," and he goes, "Hey, these actually mean something to me,
Yeah.
and I would never betray this brotherhood that has brought me in."
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, yeah, this whole Mason thing needed to be in another episode.
Yeah. I as I've talked to you about, I went to a recent show exhibit at the Taft Museum in Cincinnati, which
Mhm.
is near where I live, on Masonic and symbolism, as well as Oddfellow symbolism. I just kind of really, when I did our little thing, I just barely scratched the surface on it because it's very interesting. There's a lot of symbolism that ties into a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that really struck me is this whole need for people, a tribe, and you know, people love to have clubs, with athletic clubs or political parties is another one, so, and this is just another form of that tribal nature of humans. And that was something that James Taylor took very, very seriously.
Yeah.
And it was something that is, that could have been something that really worked for a good mystery based on the Freemasonry. This whole idea of this whole brotherhood, because they talk about brotherhood, and yet it's except for that one scene with James Taylor, you don't get it.
Well, that's the point. That's where like having
Yeah,
Jones be that character would have
yeah,
been great because the
hmm
police is also considered a brotherhood.
yeah, yeah,
So it's like, which brotherhood means the most to him? Who is he really?
yeah.
Would have been a great Jones episode centric episode, but look, only Jones centric episodes only need one thing to be great, and Eileen knows what that is.
We're talking naked butts again.
Yep. He gives Barnaby his mason dagger as a
hmm
letter opener. Because at the beginning Barnaby gets a paper cut.
hmm
And it just seemed like that was just like a silly joke at the end.
Yeah, yeah. It for something based on Hamlet, it ended too jokey for me.
Yeah. And Jones also gets a very like there's a couple other little Jones things like his off-duty clothes.
hmm
And then also he is so happy at the first moments in the episode to relate to Barnaby the sentencing of the Gifford brothers, like he is explaining the plot of the Matrix.
Yeah,
It's like, and then
yeah, yeah,
the judge says,
yeah. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
definitely his favorite movie of the year.
If this was really important, don't you think Tom would have been there? We had a lot of time in the costume police station.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is something rare because they don't spend a lot of time in the police station usually. We actually had an actual murder board in this one. Yeah.
Well, they didn't during the Tom years. The John years, they've gradually,
Yeah.
because I think it's become such a thing now with cop shows and
Yeah.
the murder boards and all that. They do it more. But yeah, back then they
Yeah.
rarely ever did it. It was all in Tom's head, or as he puts it in this episode, his gut feelings,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I thought was heavily ironic because afterwards we learned that Alan was poisoned
Yeah.
with glass in his gut.
In his gut. Yeah.
The home life. We got Cully back.
Yeah.
And she is in a production of Hamlet that is airing at the theater playing Ophelia. She is doing it for the love, but not the money. And my first thought was, I think it's because you're not good enough to get paid.
Hey, they get $200 a week, and she's staying with the folks.
And this is not about the actress herself. This is
Yeah.
about Cully's acting.
Yeah.
And I thought her Ophelia was a little too quiet.
Yeah.
Did not seem unstable enough. Very, very winsome.
Yeah. I have seen several productions of Hamlet recently,
hmm
and actually the last three I saw Hamlets were played by actresses, which was actually kind of cool. And two of them were black, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, and Ophelia is a very hard role, because you have to be. There is that winsomeness, but it can't overwhelm the character. I mean,
Yeah.
and then you have to lean into the madness a bit. And
I mean, the director calls her out.
Yeah.
The director calls her out for it, which I thought was like he was doing a decent. Like the director was the only one doing a decent job
Yeah.
because as a director, he's kind of knowing I'm stuck with terrible actors.
Yeah.
The other problem with it is that we actually can compare. Like, we can compare Hamlet with Ian. We can compare Ophelia with Sophie.
Yeah.
And the real Hamlet drama is what's going on with this murder mystery. And
Mhm.
it's so much more convincing than the play.
Yeah.
They have to make the play hyper dramatic.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's boring
Yeah.
in the context of what we're watching.
Yeah. And I know a lot of these scenes that we're seeing are rehearsals, and it's basically we're still running lines, we're still feeling out the characters and stuff like that. So it's not, this is what it's going to be on the open night, but even her, her little bit as she starts her monologue until Tom leaves and she gets really angry about, oh, what have I seen here?
Yeah. Let's just talk about that Barnaby brain fart scene because it's
Mhm.
during the words.
Yeah. No,
and
it's
isn't it during the words?
no, it's just after the get thee to a nunnery.
Oh,
And he
it,
leaves. He well, no, he does get he starts it with the words. Yeah.
yes,
Yes, he
and
does.
then he's sitting there having like a seizure in his seat
Yeah.
as he realizes again he's in Hamlet.
Yeah. And apparently he's having this brain fart over several acts, by the way.
Yeah,
Because I think words is in act 1 and get thee to a nunnery is in act 3.
yeah.
If I'm remembering the things correctly. Yeah.
At one point, you think Joyce would have said, "Stop fidgeting."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he has to run out during Cully's big scene.
Yeah.
Why? There was no urgency to the. It could have waited a while.
Yeah.
I think he's thought, "Oh crap, they're doing the full text. I need to get out of here.
You
This is going to be a
don't
4-hour thing."
Yeah, you don't leave in the middle of the play unless it's a biological emergency, let's say.
Cully has a right to be pissed. I mean,
Yeah.
it's disruptive.
It is. It's very
He
disruptive.
doesn't even try to go out quietly. He's like, "Oh, I gotta go."
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Cully finally knows what it's like to be Joyce.
Yeah. I have a feeling she's known for a while.
Yeah, they need to have they need that family needs family therapy bad.
Yeah.
So they Joyce and Cully are trying to get Tom to hang flyers, and he doesn't want to do it because that's breaking the law.
Yeah.
I'm like, since when do you?
Mr. Breaking and Entering.
Yeah.
Warrantless search man.
Look, he's got standards. He only breaks the law when it's a felony.
Yeah. He's not going to do any of this misdemeanor crap.
No. I'm putting my badge on the line. I'm putting my badge on the line. And then I really loved Joyce's best moment in the entire episode is when she's sitting in the car and she knows she has to go in and get Tom, and she just does a.
Yeah.
She does the biggest sigh. It's
Yeah.
like, I've been in the car 10 minutes, and he's just apparently been thinking.
Why are you just staring out the window? You know you're going to have your brain fart in the middle of the play.
But it was just that big sigh of like, I got to do this again.
Yeah.
Oh God. She's she's just sitting there in that car thinking about all the men she could have married.
Yeah.
So, what are your final thoughts on King's Crystal?
Like I said, this is one for one thing. It even though it loses momentum after Ian dies, for me, it is one I remember well, and I think because it does have some really strong performances in it, and it has young Jamie Fraser, and I love the Hamlet thing. I think, like I said, I think the Hamlet thing and the Freemason thing should have been 2 separate episodes because they don't meld them together in any natural way. And both on their own could have been much better episodes without having to share screen time with the other one.
I agree. They needed to split the 2.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work. I also feel like they stayed too close to Hamlet.
Mm-hmm.
Once Ian dies, it should have been fair game of who the killer really was.
Mm-hmm.
Like Charles could have still killed Alan.
Yeah.
Ian could have still killed Peter, but there could have been a third thing. It really, because they keep it Charles, and then they have like that very unsatisfying, like an anti-Midsummer ending.
Yeah.
It just deflates.
Yeah.
It's just there's no, you know, it's just like they don't land the plane well.
Yeah. It should have ended with Tom Barnaby and David standing surrounded by dead bodies. Everybody else is dead.
No, I think it should have been a different killer. I think they made grounds that it could have been Sophie because
Yeah.
that timeline doesn't work up. It could have been James Taylor. It could have been David.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they were all like really good candidates to pull off like healing. Like I could see a thing of like David was actually trying to be a part of the air, like get close to Charles.
Mm-hmm.
It just because because it just is like, well, we're doing Hamlet, so we're just going to end it like Hamlet. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's not how Hamlet ends. Like you've started off with Hamlet, and but Hamlet again, not a murder mystery, because they needed to keep it so close to Hamlet. It's just there's no suspense. There's no more suspense. And like I said, I thought for sure, because when Charles didn't do the admission, we're gonna get another. We're actually gonna get someone who's actually the real killer.
Yeah.
And then it's like no, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess we're just gonna end the episode. It felt like they were writing it like, well, we've hit the 100 the hour 27 mark on this, so we're gonna just end it. Let's just go. Everyone go home.
It should have been Jack Tucson.
Why
And
not?
he felt really guilty about getting that job from the guy he killed.
Why not? Like, got me a stupid ticket taking job? Hell with that. Do you know how much pub bills cost? Come on. And it just, anything would have been better than Charles. I really think so. Like, unless or show us Charles doing it.
Yeah.
Show it, show us like doing anything, because it's.
Yeah, I mean, we only really see the one murder. We don't see how he managed to give Ian the barbiturates or anything. We don't. They never break his alibi. They don't say.
Or how did Charles, who is shorter than Ian, and probably weaker than Ian, how did he get him up there?
Yeah, and what would have been interesting and really made the masonry thing work, because he said, "Oh, I was at a Mason meeting," and there's the scene in the initiation, and this gets a reaction from Jones, is that they say the only exception is in cases of murder and treason. They could have worked that into breaking his alibi, and they made that more interesting. If like they had said, okay, James Taylor, you handyman, was he at this Mason thing? This is where that would have been interesting, to have James Mason like have to really question his brotherhood, but yet, it's a case of murder, even though I didn't like the guy who was murdered,
or covering up Alan's murder, because Alan was clearly a Mason.
Yeah.
So Charles murdered another Mason.
Yeah.
That he is therefore in violation of his oath.
Yeah. And that would have made it more interesting.
Yeah. It just they too much. Too much, and then it just, like, the first half is great. I think the acting is great.
Yeah.
It's just that you're right, as soon as Ian dies, and they've changed the plot of Hamlet, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna veer it back into Hamlet. I was like, no, you've already set up that it's a Hamlet thing. You don't have to do that anymore. Chart your own course.
Yeah.
Better luck next time, Midsomer. No, I mean this episode is just gonna. This episode will always be the Sam Heughan episode, and that's what it's forever gonna be.
Yeah, yeah, and in fact, that's my mnemonic for my chart on my graph, my grid on all of these is Jamie Fraser.
Yep.
It's the Jamie Fraser episode, and it's the Hamlet episode. Yeah. But they could have done better on the Hamlet part, and they could have done better on the Freemason.
Yeah. Well, that's everything that we wanted to talk about. If you had anything you wanted to discuss about King's Crystal or Midsomer Murders, feel free to email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. If you want us to use the email in the show, you got to say so in your email. You can follow us at Welcome to Midsomer on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, as well as on YouTube, where we've been uploading our old episodes. You can follow us everywhere, except for Twitter. We took that off. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing or rating and reviewing us on iTunes or Spotify. That helps people find us. You can tell all your friends about us. We're going to be back soon with a new episode, and we hope you will join us again. And as we take the road out of Midsomer, we want to thank you for listening and remind you that in Midsomer, playing crazy can get you murdered.
To be or not to be, am I right?
Not to be. Welcome to Midsomer is produced by Eric Buscher and Eileen Becker. All clips in this podcast are used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exception for criticism and commentary. Our logo and podcast art was designed by Smeedrai. Our theme music is by the infamous Space.